Hello, Jake Decker.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, how you doing? You've recently played some of Dragon's Dogma 2. Can you tell me a little bit about what you played? I'm going to ask you questions about it.
Yes, so I played roughly an hour. It is a TGS demo that folks at TGS will be able to play. However, this was extended. So I played an hour. There were 3 classes available. There was a thief, there was an archer, and there was a fighter. I played mostly as a thief, but I got to play a little bit as a fighter. And we weren't able to do story stuff, so I largely just explored the world for about an hour and fought enemies and big creatures and little creatures and explored a cave.
I mean, I think I could speak for a lot of people when I was surprised to hear that Dragon's Dogma was getting a sequel. I remember playing it at the time, which was like, 2012, 2013. Passage of time comes for us all. A very unique system where you have your controllable character and then you have a pawn who just joins you. You can send them online. Other people can use them. There were a lot of Shreks, I remember at the time. Tell me about, a pawn's different this time around, or? So
I didn't play a lot of the original Dragon's Dogma, but this seems pretty similar. I mean, in a lot of cases, this seems very familiar to the first one. I think people who played the first one will be very excited to see that a lot of that Dragon's Dogma DNA has been retained, and some of it's been expanded on. It feels a little more seamless. It feels like it makes a little more sense. Like maybe some of the, maybe not difficulty, but like some of the edges have been softened a little bit. But in terms of the pawns, I had 4 with me, and they seem to act very similar. I wasn't able to test or ask about the online functionality between them, whether or not you can share them. But basically I was running around with a party of NPCs and, they'd carry the torch for me. I'd tell them to join me. One thing that was kind of cool was that when I'd get near a destination, you could basically tell the pawn to lead me there. And then your pawn will okay, follow me. And there's no voice acting. It's all text-based, but you see the text below, follow me, and your pawn will turn around and very animated, wave you towards them, and you can give them high fives and stuff. So if you do something cool,
I was going to ask, is it still kind of goofy, which is what I really liked about
it? It still feels very goofy. That said, I did play a bit at night, and it's still very hard. You can't really see far in front of you. That's when the tougher enemies come out. And I actually fought I think it was I don't know. It was a big monster that had 4 health bars. There was a dot for each health bar. And I fought it like crazy. It was kicking my ass. And eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to run. I'm going to find a campfire. Slept until morning. Came back to that area. And that same monster with the same amount of damage I had done just came charging me out from bushes. And I was like, all right, we're actually going to fight this thing. But then that's when I really got to see the combat side, which feels very familiar.
Well, I was going to say, so, I mean, it's been at least a decade since the original Dragon's Dogma in terms of action RPGs. Fighting systems have changed a lot. What does this one, what would you equate it to feeling like? Does it still feel like Dragon's Dogma, or are there little hints of, Final Fantasy, for example, has gone way more action?
From what I remember, it's very similar to Dragon's Dogma. I think one of the probably weirder things to wrap my head around, having, the entire Souls genre explode, is that there's no lock-on. At least when I asked, they were like, oh yeah, there's not really a lock-on. So when you attack things, depending on which direction you're facing, your character will kind of attach to that one. It feels more like Monster Hunter, I guess, in that sense. Monster Hunter has a lock-on usually, but you don't always use it. So I would say it felt more like that, but it has that dynamic aspect that I think the original had, where I fought a griffin at one point and I was climbing on its back, stabbing it with a sword, and the griffin was flying around and trying to knock me off, and my party members are casting all these crazy spells, and it's doing backflips and stuff, and when you're in the heat of the moment, it is explosive. It's impressive to watch and play and participate in, and particularly it almost reminds me a little of Shadow of the Colossus. How I'm climbing on these big beasts, more actiony, of course. But
I'm sad you didn't get a chance to do any of the story stuff. But one thing I do definitely have to ask you about is, obviously, Dragon's Dogma had maybe the greatest opening theme, at least of the 2010s. Did you hear any music in this one? Was it
I heard some music, but nothing stood out to me quite that much. But I did get to visit a big town.
Okay, how was that?
which was kind of cool. It seems like I don't know if it's necessarily your home base. Like, I don't know if you'll come back there a lot, but it seems like the section that I was in, a lot of what I was doing kind of centered around that town. It seemed like I'd be going there a lot. There was a lot of NPCs wandering around, ready to talk. I think I heard someone mention that it's like the capital, and it was appropriately big for that. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, as of now, as of this recording, they still don't have a release date for it. So it's hard to say when it's coming. But yeah, felt pretty good. Looked pretty good. Like I said, it's very similar to Dragon's Dogma 1 based on what I've played. So I think, if you are a Dragon's Dogma fan and you want more Dragon's Dogma, I think this is exactly what you're going to want.
I can't even wait. I can't even think about some of the things people are going to come up with
to
make pawns with.
Yeah. It's going to be
wild.
Disgusting.
Well, thank you, Jake. For more on Dragon's Dogma 2, make sure to check out GameSpot.com and YouTube.com/GameSpot.